The classroom I observed for the Upper Scale classroom is a part of our specialized teaching program. It's the one I did for the first video observation. It is the moderate to severe students with autism spectrum disorder at our school. There are about 10 kids ranging from 5th to 8th grade with 2 teachers and 2 paraprofessionals supporting. And students spend about an average of 50 to 80% of their day in this room, depending on what's on their IEP. On the other part of the day, they're with their gen ed classrooms, mostly for their electives, PE, music, art, and sometimes social studies and science. Looking at the scale in those areas that we observed this week, one of the strengths that I saw was the visuals to help with personal independence and competence, which was number 24. There were a lot of visuals throughout the room to help students be independent, such as checklists for schedules, charts for morning advisory, trackers for knowing how the behavior was going, and various visual steps around the room for washing hands or any other thing that the students would need to do. While I was observing, it was clear that students knew what to do without needing reminders. I thought that was a very strong element. Another big strength that I think should be continued was in the area of teaming. In each of those categories, number 30, 31, and 32, the class that showed some strengths. The team holds weekly meetings, including service providers and paraprofessionals. And during this time, they work collaboratively to make decisions. Also, during this time, they offer professional development for the paras. So I find that the frequent collaborative meetings are incredibly useful to get on the same page and also to support students and work together to solve anything that they need. One of the areas of need that I observed was in personal independence and competency, which was number 25. Students knew their academic goals, but they didn't track them. I also saw the behavior, the visual tracking sheets, but the teachers were doing most of the tracking for those goals. So I think it's great that they had the visuals for tracking, but it would also be awesome to see the students kind of self-tracking themselves and showing more self-management in that area. I would also include social competence number 22 as something that could be worked on, which is adding more explicit social skills instruction. While they did do a morning question each morning during advisory, the students practiced answering the question and then asking a fellow peer the same question. That was really the only planned time for those skills, like working on those social skills. I even in a follow-up meeting asked the teacher if there's any other times that they taught social skills, and she said that there weren't. So I think that's something that can be strengthened in that program. In the same vein was social competence number 23, which was like more formal, that more formal approach. Students in this program do go to recess with their gen ed peers. However, I didn't see any effort to help those students interact with their peers or create those more formal peer social networks. The paraprofessionals were often to the side with the students, playing a game with them, instead of trying to integrate them into more games with people together. So I just think that that's something that could be worked on with the students. In terms of the FBA, I didn't see it actually conducted, but I did see the after effects or the fruits of that effort. The BCBA was in during one of my observations. She was working with the ed specialist on the tracking sheets and communicating with the parent with how they are doing. So it did seem like the team had a good system for doing the FBA. It was appropriate because interfering behaviors were occurring more often, and that they were talking with all the parties involved, including the parents, in order to help the student. And communication overall seemed to be a strength as well. They had text and emails as a main mode of communication. Parents had all the teachers' phones and were able to communicate with them at any time that they needed help. So overall, I observed a lot of good things in the area of family involvement and teaming. While these processes can always be improved, they should continue on the path that they were on. In terms of adjustments or things that need a little work, I definitely think that building the social skills, especially with peers in the gen ed classroom, and a little bit more self-management.